Yo, what's up? I'm Max.
And I'm Dan. We play in a band called You Me at 6.
You're here watching BOBs Backstagetalk.
And now it's 3 a.m. and you're calling me up again. And you wanna know if I read every word that I said. Then you should go home.
No, I think that's the first we've heard of, I think that's the first we've heard of that. Yeah. No, I think we kind of were just, I think after having the record Night People, we had a little bit of time off before writing that record. So I felt like it was kind of teething periods, kind of getting out of writer's block. And once we got past it, I think we were just more in a role of writing music. So we kind of just went faster, to be honest with you.
It was more the business side of the music industry. We were moving management and labels and all sorts of crazy stuff. And at one point we were managing ourselves for a while. It was getting pretty hectic and stressful. But no, there was never plans for us to break up. I think it was just a bit of a rough time that we had to just get through. And now we're here and it's all good. Feeling pretty positive about it all.
Yeah, new records out. You know, we're back in Europe again. You know, I think the shows we've been doing in Germany have definitely been some of the best shows we've done over here so far. And we feel like there's a fan base growing, you know. There's been definitely some of our songs have been picked up over with you guys being on radio as well, and I think that's showcased our music to a fan base that maybe have never heard of us before, considering that we've got 6 records in the bag and we're all still under 30, so I think that's pretty good going, right? Just.
Easily.
Straight to my head.
Easy. People seem to know it. I mean, it's probably one of the best songs in the whole entire set, and it's obviously like brand new, so we're just blown away by it.
We always look at each other on stage as well, and we always kind of get a kick out of playing that song as well. It's like, it's quite a rush, it's anthemic, I think. It's like got a classic You Me at 6 sound, but more developed to where we are now. And I think it's just kind of, like I said, it's anthemic, and it's kind of one of the last songs we play in the set as well. So I think people don't expect us to play it at that point, but we know it's a fan favourite because we saw the reaction to it online and people picking up onto it on radio in different countries, and generally our fan base love that song. So I think for us it's one of the best.
I think Germany is by far our favourite place to come in the whole of sort of mainland Europe. Not only because we've been so well received here and the shows are, you know, they're picking up and some of them are sort of selling out and everything like that. It's incredible for us to come outside of England and sort of the UK and even sell any tickets, let alone be selling shows out. And yeah, the German crowd just seems to be really excited, and we love coming to the festivals. And just, I think Germany as a whole in terms of a country, it just is so good. We love coming.
Yeah, I think it's also like an iconic place as well. You know, there's a lot of musicians that kind of moved over to Germany as well, and I think it's Beatles, David Bowie, Iggy Pop, you know, all being kind of like Berlin based, but like there's great studios here. There's been some great records made in Germany, you know, and I think you look at the market as a whole, it's a place that loves engaging with music, I think more so than most other territories. You know, I still feel like you buy physical records here, you go to a lot more concerts, and I think some people in different territories across the world have never been as strong and such a strength in the music market as Germany. Maybe America may be the only other one, but like Germany, in my opinion, is like the second biggest music market.
I mean, we go to, say, Holland, and we're playing one show on this tour. You know, one show in Sweden, one show in France. What do we have in Germany? 5 shows?
6 shows.
See, that just goes to show like how much not only we enjoy the country, but we think that the country enjoys us, which is exciting. Plus, you guys love techno, and I love techno music. So, like, honestly, I'm just like right at home here.
I think it's at points and stages in our band's career, like especially when we talk about a record like Night People, you know, transitioning from like Cavalier Youth, that was kind of a slick kind of like California-made record by a guy called Neil Avron, who's done Linkin Park, Fall Out Boy, like he's done some great artists. And it was a great album, Aerosmith as well being one of them. But we had an idea, and it was a bit more groove based for Night People. At that point, I can only speak on behalf of myself that I was definitely heavily influenced by people like Jimmy Page, Jack White, Pete Townsend, all the classic rock guitarists, and grew my hair out. It was like a big thing for me, and I was like, let's get groovy.
In Nashville as well, don't forget, like we're in Nashville making a record, so I think that starts to rub off on you in a while. And, you know, you're going out to the bars, and there's all these cool, like, blues and jazz bands playing. And all the country music, and it really does influence you, doesn't it?
And then to that point of being like, once you've done something, you always want to push the barrier, because I feel like as an artist, you shouldn't be sitting there being content with what you've done and just staying like that, because as artists, you are meant to push the barrier. Like there's, like, I can only comparison to the great people of like David Bowie, the Beatles, because they constantly changed and they evolved into something else and made.
Stones did it so well as well. Like they never wrote the same album twice. You know, they went from sort of rock and roll into blues to all sorts of, you know, whatever they fancy doing. But it was definitely a natural progression. I think we had our own studio as well at home, and I think we just started to really look at production ourselves, and that's how we started going down the more electronic route, because when you're, say, on tour and you have a laptop, you can now write music so easily, but it ends up, obviously, you're doing it all in the box on a laptop, so you naturally progress towards an electronic sound, because you can't have a studio set up with drums and guitars and bass and everything on the road, but you can have everything on a computer. So it sort of lends itself to influencing you into heading that direction, you know.
I think that also kind of sums up, like, because us five in the band all listen to such different styles of music, you know. Like Dan's already mentioned he's listened to techno. I listen to like a lot of R&B kind of soul kind of music. If it's hip hop, you know, jazz. Like Matt listens to country, you know. Josh is definitely a bit more into hip hop, you know, like, and we take all those influences, but also we knew from the reason why we play a band is we kind of came from a rock background, and that'll be from bands like Green Day, Led Zeppelin, you know, like Chili Peppers, like, and you mash that all between us five, and when you're trying to push the barrier of what you're doing with your sounds as an artist, you have to soak all these other sounds in right now, because it is 2019, and how people consuming music is at a very fast rate, and you can see what they're engaging with song-wise and be like, right, well, that's what people liked and what we've done before, where if you buy a record, you don't know what their favourite song is sometimes. So you can see numbers in front of you. So, I don't know. I think pushing and evolving is always great for artists.
Yeah, both really. There's certain songs, say, for example, a song called IOU on the latest record, that just came from being in a studio and just purely jamming. At first, we actually thought it was a bit of a joke, what we were playing. We were just messing around. And then we actually stopped at one point and were like, right, should we get back to what we were doing before? And then we thought, actually, there was something in that, and you know, we progressed it, and that came from purely a band jam. And there's others, like you're saying, exactly, you're right, you know, someone will come in with a bit of a demo, probably done on their laptop, which has the electronics involved and everything, and say, okay, this is my idea, and then we take it further from there.
We've also done, like Dan was saying, I think we've also gone into the world of writing with other artists as well, and songwriters, which I think kind of has a bit of a stigma in rock music. It's like, oh, you shouldn't do that. But I think for us, being now an artist for over 10 years, you always want to learn from somebody else. Like, you can always get some new information that can make your next song that you write with everybody else better. So I think
also, if you can get in a room with a guy like Egg White, I mean, he writes for Adele, so you got to think, you know, if you're going to be able to be in a room and learn from someone like that, why would you not do it? Of course you're going to do it.
we're not sitting there going, write us a song, and we go, thank you very much. It's like, it's a collaborative. I think the world that we live in now, in the music and art society, you know, the creative world, is collaborate, because that's everybody working together for the bigger picture at the end of the day, is being, you want to be the best you can be. And when we've done it for a long time, and then when we start going working with other people and we all go back together in the room, it's like, oh, you've learned something new and you've brought that into the song, and that's really made it this much better from what it could have been before. So I find that exciting as well. I think that's the reason why I started playing music was to jam with my mates. But then you get to jam with more and more people, and it's just like, it's a big community, the music world is. Nirvana, Nevermind. For me, even though I was born a year before that record came out, I remember when I heard it when I was 8 years old. The first bit of rock music I'm hearing, I'm just like, smells like Teen Spirit. It's just like, what's this? I'm used to hearing radio, pop music, but this is like the angsty man who's going to grow up into a teenager, and this is going to be his soundtrack to wanting to play an instrument. So that kind of changed my life for me, that record.
For me, it was probably Led Zeppelin, I guess. I mean, you know, that was the first time that I didn't you know, I experienced something that wasn't just listening to the radio. You know, you get in the car with my mum and, you know, she'd have the radio on and you hear the same songs regurgitated over and over and over. And then I get in the car with my dad and he'd be like, right, put a CD on and it's Led Zeppelin. And I'm thinking, I think this is what I want to do. Like, this is different. It's exciting. And that made me want to go out there and practice, you know, go home, sit there with my headphones in and just play drums. And I remember I used to close my eyes and just pretend, just imagine what it would feel like to be on stage playing in front of people. So then to be able to do that in your life is quite an incredible thing.
Knocking on Heaven's Door by Guns N' Roses, because it's 3 chords, it's quite simple. So the fundamentals for a guitarist.
Can't think of what the first song I would have ever played. I really can't think. I remember the first song, probably it wouldn't have been the first song that I would have learnt to play because it's far too difficult, but I remember specifically really trying to break down No One Knows, Queens of the Stone Age, because, I mean, all those drum fills in there, all the different parts, but the beat's simple and then it goes crazy. Dave Grohl, again, what a drummer. So I remember, obviously, that was probably a few years into playing drums because it's a difficult song. There's no way you would pick up the drums and be able to play that tune. But that was one specifically for me that I remember being a child and thinking, I'm going to work this out. I want to know how to play this song. So,
What made you want to progress at your instrument?
I don't even think I can play it now. So it's too hard.
Dave Grohl, right?
It's Dave Grohl. What are you going to do? How are you going to play it? I can't. Sorry.
I was quite lucky, to be honest with you, because when I was growing up, I had parents that allowed me to do quite a lot of things, and that was kind of going to shows in London, you know, when I was at the age of 14, 15, hanging out in London probably 4 or 5 times a week. The Astoria, the Mean Fiddler, like legendary iconic venue in Tottenham Court Road in London. And I spent they knocked down for a train station that's just about getting finished soon, you know, and that's like nearly 10 years ago now. So, but I spent a lot of my youth going there. I saw lots of artists. I saw My Chemical Romance there, to From First to Last, a Block Party. I did at least 50 to 60 gigs there in a year. And that was me at 14, 15. It kind of gave me the backbone and the fundamental to be wanting to be a musician, is going to gigs week in, week out, watching your favourite artists play in front of a room and just kind of getting that energetic feeling, being like singing your heart out, having a good time. And if music can do drinking, definitely underage as well. I had fake ID, so that was a great part of my youth. So, but it's just kind of when
we had quite a strong local scene around our area as well, where we are in Surrey, or there was anyway. When we were growing up, we had Kingston, which was just outside of London, and they had a couple of great venues there, like the Peel. Guildford had a few venues too, so there was a real strong local scene of small bands like ourselves and sort of all of our friends. And, you know, someone would put on a show and there would end up being 200, 300 people in the room because you just took all your friends down there, you know, outside. Like, you didn't really have any real fans. It was just more the fact that we were getting all of our mates into one room, all of their mates, all of their mates, all of their mates, and getting everyone packing out these tiny little venues around the area and just having absolute mayhem, playing these terrible songs and just everyone just having such a laugh. And it was like a real community thing that was happening back then. Yeah. And that's where so many bands came from. That's where they all stemmed from, but this band especially.
Not from our area, but Bring Me from Sheffield.
Bring Me had a similar thing.
Architects as well, they came from the same background as well. And then I'm trying to think, bands that are not going anymore, like bands like the Blackout and Kids in Glass Iris, and Shikari are still going. So there was like a little clique of us. Gallows were another band that kind of did their own thing. You know, we kind of came through a good rank of musicians that have.
There was a band called Tonight Is Goodbye, and we toured with them a long time, and they sort of came from that similar scene. I remember seeing them at the Kingston Peel, and Ant from Tonight Is Goodbye is now in a band called Oh Wonder, and they're humongous all over the world now. So there's so many artists that came from that kind of scene in that area. You know, our friend Trude, he plays drums for lots of people like Jess Glynn, Anna Luna George, things like that. So like big artists, you know, everyone came from that kind of that local thing.
First kiss, how long ago? First was probably
last week.
Mine was last week. Yeah, no, it was actually last night with you on the bus. Yeah, do you remember that? Yeah, it was my first. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
My first kiss was in the cinema.
First time I was very drunk. I was about 30. I was 13, 14. And I drank a whole bottle of Jack Daniels, and I basically was throwing up for a whole entire evening. So, yeah, that was not fun.
I don't know if this happens in Germany, but when we were younger, I don't know if people really do this anymore, even in the UK. But when I was younger, even like 13 years old, we used to sneak into the local shop and try and buy cider, and you could buy like 2 litres of cider for like £1 back then. And the guy back then would just be like, yeah, whatever, just have it. We're like 13 years old. And then we'd just go sit down the park and just drink bottles of cider for some weird
Playing spinny.
playing spinny, just spinning around in circles, just downing bottles of cider, and then ended up in just complete mess in some park. And yeah, God.
We do not promote underage drinking, can we just say?
We used to run across the golf course and set off all the sprinklers and stuff on the golf course, and they would chase us in the buggies and stuff. Like, it was horrendous. Like, why did you
hiding in the bushes?
Basically criminals.
In secondary school, because he was being a bully, so I hit somebody, but then I got hit back as well, and then it got broken up. So
I've never punched him in the face.
I worked on a farm shop, believe it or not. I was sorting out the hay and the fresh fruit and vegetables for the clients of Virginia Water. So that was my first job and only job.
I had 2 jobs before I did this when I was younger. One of them, I worked on a golf course cutting the grass, which was excellent. I loved it. Sit down on the mower, drive it around in the sunshine, just listening to music the whole time. Loved that. And then I also worked, not for very long, but at Thorpe Park, which is a theme park, and I hated that. The bit where people come off the ride and they buy their pictures. I was very close to punching someone in the face there. God. Just the people that are like, I want that one.
Which one is that?
What one do you want? Just tell me the number on the screen. I don't know. Just that one. God, terrible. So I just didn't turn up, and then they sacked me. And then I went, I'm going to be in a band instead.
Now he plays drums in a band that goes international.
There you go. So fuck you, Thorpe Park.